Hello, Manhwa enthusiasts. I hope you're all having an amazing day. I want to start by thanking everyone who commented on the last video and everyone who left a like. A special shout out to Cedric Shepherd 4459 for being the first to comment and for always watching my videos. Now, let's dive into this recap. Anil, feeling a bit shy, observed her while she eagerly awaited his opinion, asking if it didn't suit her. In his mind, he thought the whole situation was crazy, but the truth was that the design looked great, and most importantly, it suited her perfectly. Jisoo smiled in relief and decided to show him the full swimsuit. Anil took it in, though. If he thought about it, he had already seen her as nature had brought her into the world before. Still, whether it was the setting or the situation itself, he felt his faith growing even stronger than the last time they prayed together. Jisoo chuckled slightly, saying that this was even more embarrassing than being outdoors. Angeol then got up from the bed and called out to her, wanting to know if the atmosphere was right. She simply looked at him without responding, yet he insisted on making sure. Jisoo smiled and reminded him that she had already told him before. If he kept asking so many questions, things would start to get boring. That's when Anil gave her a tender kiss. Jisoo was caught off guard but said nothing due to the suddenness of the moment. Instead of pulling away, she held him tightly. Anil asked if she was expecting them to hold a mass, but she only wanted to know if her intentions were that obvious. He smiled and told her that everything he had bought made her look truly stunning, so much so that he started playing with a gummy button, making Jisoo flustered and tell him to stop immediately. Anil laughed smugly and admitted that he liked it when she praised him because it strengthened his faith. However, he warned her that the neighbors might hear them. Jisoo couldn't believe what she was hearing, so she grabbed a scarf to prevent anyone from overhearing her prayers. This embarrassed Han Byul, but he decided to do his best to prepare the mass properly. Before that, he thought of using a special technique, believing it might soothe Jisoo's soul. However, Anil noticed that Jisoo's purity was beginning to overflow, signaling that the warmth of her heart was shining through. Before continuing, he mentioned that he needed to grab a Danonino, but when he picked it up, he realized his little snack was slightly frozen, so much so that it was starting to melt. Even so, he decided to go ahead and eat it, while casually commenting on how shy Jisoo seemed that day. Without further delay, he continued enjoying his treat. Jisoo wanted him to stop fooling around and begin this ceremony, which to Anil meant she was finally finding peace. However, just then, he accidentally swallowed a small bead from the Danonino, causing Jisoo, distracted, to spill the holy water she was holding. Amused, Anil teased her, wondering if she would like that, but seeing her reaction, he could now confirm it. Still, he didn't miss the chance to ask if she had actually enjoyed it. Too embarrassed to respond, Jisoo simply moved closer to him. Andiel continued mocking her until she shoved him to the ground, glaring furiously. Annoyed, she declared she was going to put an end to him. He had no idea why, but Jisoo began shaking him violently, warning that if he acted arrogant again, she would eliminate him without mercy. Confused, Anil tried to recall when he had said anything like that, but she wouldn't let go, almost as if she were bidding him farewell and sending him straight to the heavens. After a while, Anyul stood frozen like a statue and asked how long he had to stay still. While examining the chalice, the redhead reminded him that if he made a sound or moved, it would be the end of him, so it was in his best interest to remain quiet. Her plan now was to clean the chalice to retrieve the holy water and show him just how embarrassing the whole situation was. Anil just wanted her to hurry up, but for Jisoo, it wasn't that simple. She seemed nervous, timidly admitting that seeing a chalice in person was embarrassing. This puzzled Anul. He recalled this wasn't her first time, so he didn't understand why she was acting so shy. Jisoo told him not to compare, adding that she could feel her faith growing stronger. Frustrated, she turned to Anyul and yelled that thinking about it only made her angrier. She even blamed him, accusing him of disrespecting the organization of the ceremony, especially after eating the Danonino and the pastries. Anil defended himself, saying that since she had been shouting, the chalice's glow had faded. Feeling slightly ashamed, Jisoo admitted it was due to her sensitivity. Angu understood and told her that if she didn't want to clean it, she didn't have to. However, Jisoo insisted that she would do it and that he shouldn't interfere. When she first attempted to pick up the chalice, she hesitated, unsure of how to hold it. She realized it was much heavier than she had expected. Despite her embarrassment, she grasped it with determination and asked if she was holding it correctly. Slowly, the chalice began to regain its glow. For Anyul, the situation was awkward, but there was something strange about the way Jisoo was handling it. He told her she didn't have to be so careful, to which she simply nodded. The redhead continued staring at the chalice in silence before finally starting to clean it. This confused Ol, but when he asked if something was wrong, She shook her head, saying she had just been caught off guard. Although she admitted she wasn't entirely comfortable with the situation, she was determined to obtain the holy water so he could understand the embarrassment he had put her through. Anil expected Jisoo to be a bit clumsy, and indeed, she wasn't cleaning very quickly. In fact, at first, she even tried using her teeth, making it clear her cleaning technique was quite poor. Watching her struggle, he doubted she would succeed in retrieving the holy water. However, despite her awkward and ineffective method, seeing her so focused strengthened Ul's faith. In the end, the holy water was about to be released from the chalice, but since they had nowhere to put it, Jisoo decided to drink it herself to purify her sins. It worked, though she barely managed to swallow it without choking. With a shaky voice, she muttered that she had almost drowned, yet Han Byul looked at her with an expression of pure joy. Jisoo noticed his gaze and curiously asked if she had done well. He assured her with a smile, congratulating her. Hearing that, Jisoo blushed and honestly admitted that she felt very embarrassed about everything, but in the end, she realized it wasn't as bad as she had thought. Seeing that she was slightly damp, Andul decided to fetch a towel for her to dry off. While he was gone, Jisoo pondered what to do next. When he returned with what he had found, he was surprised to see her drinking the last few drops of the holy water. Puzzled, he asked why she was doing that. Slightly embarrassed, Jisoo replied that she had heard drinking all of it could be beneficial. Besides, she was curious to taste it and had also heard that it made fools like him go crazy. And Jewel chuckled at her words, unable to resist telling her that, seeing her like that, she looked adorable, like a mischievous child. Without knowing exactly why, he confessed that it made him happy. Jisoo, noticing his gaze and hearing his words, blushed even more and avoided looking at him directly. Stammering, she said she was going to take a bath, since after her date and working in the morning, she felt she might smell bad. Before leaving, she suggested he get some rest. Amused, Angul knew she was just looking for an excuse to escape her embarrassment. He stepped closer and hugged her warmly, telling her there was no need to rest, and that with those expressions, she was like an open book. Jisoo didn't fully understand what he meant, but Andul suspected she was running away because she felt too flustered. To stop her, he remarked that if she left now, she might ruin the preparations for the ceremony. Since she had been so proactive in organizing everything, he now felt ready to begin. He asked if they could continue, and after a moment of nervous hesitation, Jisoo agreed. Anu gently picked her up and laid her down carefully, to which she asked him to be gentle. At that moment, he whispered if they could first pray for a stray dog. Jisoo had no idea what he was talking about, but before she could ask, Anjul began reciting a prayer for the well-being of the animal. The redhead was startled and scolded him for starting out of nowhere, saying he had scared her a little. Anil apologized, though he thought they were in sync. Seeing her act so tenderly, he felt it was the perfect moment to begin the consecration. Jisoo, completely flustered, called him an idiot, saying that when he spoke like that, it only made her more embarrassed. Anil didn't understand why she felt that way, but she, now completely red, just asked him to start reading the Bible. He was confused as to why she was suddenly upset again, but Jisoo denied it, telling him to just keep doing whatever he wanted. Hearing that, Anil felt encouraged and continued with his prayers. Suddenly, Jisoo asked if it was just her imagination, or if the chalice's glow had intensified. Anil commented that she might just be imagining it, but she felt as if the corruption in her heart was being cleansed from the deepest parts of her soul. It didn't hurt, but she acknowledged it was an unimaginable warmth. Anil was surprised by her words, and with a shy smile, told her that now she was worse than him, because saying things like that was making him blush. Jisoo didn't understand why he was saying that, but regardless, they continued with their prayers. Then, without meaning to, Jisoo spilled the holy water she had in her hands. Anu immediately noticed and, with slight concern, asked if she could still continue with the ceremony. They carried on with their praises, but Ul, seeing Jisoo's reaction, felt she might make a mistake and spill more of the water. However, she told him not to say such nonsense. Even so, he decided to fetch more water to complete the ceremony properly. He quickly returned with the holy water and used it to purify the girl's soul, setting her free. When everything was over, Angul felt relieved that it had all gone well. A little while later, Jisoo mentioned that she was tired and needed to return to her room as soon as possible. To Anul, it wasn't a problem if she rested a little before leaving, but she felt that if she did, she would fall asleep in just a matter of minutes. Then he offered to wake her up if that happened. Jisoo looked at him, surprised by his suggestion, but quickly turned away, covering herself with a pillow in embarrassment. Still, with a smile, she admitted that she actually liked the idea. That response caught Ul off guard, and he also turned his gaze away, feeling flustered. Jisoo, noticing his reaction, grinned and asked when he would be free again since she wanted to schedule their next date. He wasn't sure but assumed it would be the following week. For Jisoo, that was perfect. She had free time that weekend and had also bought a lot of new clothes she wanted to wear. Anu watched her and thought about how happy she looked, like an excited child preparing for a picnic the next day. However, an odd feeling of unease started creeping over him. He couldn't explain it or pinpoint the exact reason behind his concern, so he decided to brush it off. The next day, Min approached Ul directly and asked if it was true that he was pretending to be someone's boyfriend in exchange for money. At that moment, Anil finally understood what had been bothering him. What he didn't understand was how Min had found out. Confused, he asked where she had heard that, and she replied that Jisoo had told her. Now everything made sense. However, Min clarified that Jisoo had never said it outright. Her responses to certain questions just gave that impression. Either way, she understood that the two had been getting closer lately. Min then began asking Anyul some questions. He remained thoughtful until he heard her whisper that 1,000,000 wons was too much just to pretend to be someone's boyfriend. That phrase made Anyul reflect on the situation more calmly. He realized the problem was more serious than he had imagined. First, he had received money from Jisoo. Then, she paid for their second date. And on top of that, they had attended a ceremony together. From an outsider's perspective, it all seemed like a very unusual relationship. Given how strict the director was, if Min found out, he could even be expelled. Feeling a bit nervous, Anu assured Min that it wasn't as if he was scamming anyone or anything like that. Min already knew that, which surprised Anyul. She explained that Jisoo had been the one to decide on the amount of money and that she had even overheard him trying to return it. Angul felt relieved that the situation hadn't escalated further. However, Min suddenly muttered something under her breath. Angun didn't catch it clearly, but it sounded like she was saying it wasn't as if nothing had happened. That confused him. Min, on the other hand, saw things differently. To her, Jisoo wasn't asking for anything in return for the money. She simply viewed it as a favor. Angul knew the situation might sound odd, so he tried to reassure her. He promised there was nothing to worry about since it wouldn't happen again. Moreover, he didn't want Jisoo making decisions without considering the consequences. But then, Min made an unexpected remark. She suggested that maybe Ul wasn't comfortable with the situation, and that was perfectly fine. After all, she understood that it could be difficult for him to accept something like that from a woman slightly older than him. Anun didn't understand what she meant. That's when Min made a surprising proposal. She asked him to pretend to be her boyfriend for a day. Anil was completely stunned. He had no idea how the conversation had reached that point or what was going on. Let's rewind a bit before the date. Jisoo was relieved. She had thought he was going to be expelled. Anul reassured her. Min hadn't said much and had been very careful with her questions, so everything seemed to have gone well. Jisoo was generally a relaxed person, but she could be a little strict when necessary. After all, no one would be overly kind to someone pretending to be a boyfriend. Anul chuckled at the thought. Jisoo felt like she should have said it wasn't a big deal, but her mind went blank and she started spacing out. She apologized to Anil for it. He remained silent for a moment. To him, it really wasn't a big deal. No one had gotten hurt, everything had been resolved, and he would be heading home soon. Jisoo said goodbye but couldn't help but wonder if he was really okay. Up until now, Anil's impression of Min was that she was cold and strict. He could never tell what she was thinking. At the cafeteria, she seemed like the last person who would do something like this. And yet, out of nowhere, she was asking him to pretend to be her boyfriend. Jisoo found herself in a strange situation. He asked Min to explain, but she didn't understand what he meant. He wanted to know why she had called him. A bit embarrassed, she admitted that she wanted him to pretend to be her boyfriend for the night. Anil was willing to help however she needed. Min fell silent for a moment. It seemed like he was expecting some special reason. But for her, she simply wanted him to play the role of her boyfriend for a day. He was speechless. He understood the request, but he couldn't grasp why she was offering him 1,000,000 won for it. To Min, it wasn't that big of a deal, but Anil thought it was excessive. He wondered if people like her really existed. Money didn't come that easily, which was why he didn't understand her way of thinking. Min looked at him. If he believed this was the same situation as Jisoo's, then he was misunderstanding everything. She just wanted to start the date. Anil asked if there was anything she wanted to do or anywhere she wanted to go. She thought for a moment and realized she was a little hungry. They went to several restaurants, but all of them seemed to be closed. In the end, they ended up eating toast. To Anil, the date was going terribly, but Min reassured him, saying she was enjoying it. Afterward, they watched an incredibly boring movie. By the time they left, there wasn't much time left. so they didn't know where else to go. Min then suggested heading home, and Anil agreed, feeling awful about how the date had turned out. At home, Anil couldn't stop thinking about how nothing had gone as planned. Min noticed, and since the date had been a bit disappointing, she wanted to extend their deal. He was fine with that. Min then asked how much she owed him. He told her it wasn't necessary. Since nothing had gone as expected, he saw no reason to charge her. He would return the money he had received, and they could drop the formalities. He asked if there was anything else she wanted him to do. She didn't think it was necessary. She fell into thought for a moment. He was different from what she had expected. However, he didn't hear her last remark. She then suggested they go to her room first. Once inside, Anil looked around. Her room felt more like an office. Min asked if they could extend their agreement until morning, which he accepted. He was willing to do whatever she wanted. Suddenly, Anil was surprised. He didn't understand what she was doing. Min was starting to show off her cosplay. She looked at him and wanted him to do the same. It all seemed so sudden to him. She didn't see anything wrong with it. After all, he was her boyfriend. To Anil, it felt somewhat inappropriate. Min misunderstood, thinking he wanted extra payment. He was left speechless. She said she would pay whatever he asked. And with that, we wrap up this part of the Manhwa. I hope you all loved it. If you did, don't forget to give us a big like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with your friends. Also, if you want to be featured in the next video, leave a nice comment down below. Remember, if you want to see the next part, smash that like button. The more support this video gets, the sooner we'll bring the continuation. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye.